Welcome to the webinar broadcast. The broadcast.
Okay, welcome all and welcome to this webinar on Dynamicweb 9.5, which we released last Tuesday. I'm Nicolai and I'll run you through the details that we, all the features that we added in this release. Just the quick headlines to give you an idea of what we're going to see. First of all, there's a number of improvements to the email marketing and some things in the content management system as well. We've done some upgrades on the permission system, giving you access to an easier way to configure the permissions on all the various areas in Dynamicweb. And then I'm going to introduce to you Headless Ecommerce or Ecommerce Services or Ecommerce View Engine. It has a lot of different names. I'll get into details on that. We have a major update on the PIM system, including the new channel and feed system that will make it possible to integrate to stuff like Amazon and all the other interesting things happening in the e-commerce marketplace. And there's also a lot of improvements to the editing experience as well. Then we're going to take a look at some GDPR compliance tools and cookie handling. And in the end, I'm going to show you a new health and monitoring tool that's available for cloud users of Dynamicweb. But let's get into the content and marketing part of all of this. During this presentation, you're welcome to ask questions and I'll answer them as we go along. So let's take a look at the changes to email marketing. The entire email marketing or marketing section has gotten an update. So first of all, you'll see a new implementation of the tree. And we also have a new categorization of the tree nodes in email marketing. So you have campaigns and scheduled email marketing newsletters separated in two different views. Also, we've worked a lot on the underlying things going on. So this is the new view of all the emails. And you can see from this list, you have an option to add and remove columns that you want to see in this email list. And you can get the opening rate and send and open and click and so on in this list directly. And it's much faster than it was previously. It's also received an update to the dashboard that shows the statistics of each of the email. Also to make it faster and more precise in what we saw earlier. Another thing is there's a new flow related to, this is the first version of the new flow related to how to create emails. It now follows a more logic path. So you start by saying who the email is to and who is it from. And then you work on the content. And as you can see, here's the new view that will show you content that you used previously to send newsletters. So instead of going to the content tree, create a new newsletter and fill it out over there and then go to email marketing, you just create a new email, choose the one, the template you want to use, or create one based on the previous email, and Dynamicweb will automatically take a copy of the email and show you a preview and select the right page and domain and all of these things in one go, so you don't have to go through as many steps. And this is just in one view, so you can now send an email much faster. In the next version of Dynamicweb, you will also see improvements, further improvements to this, so it will be separated into steps, and you will get a new engine for editing the content of the selected emails. And then we've done some overhaul of the email templates. So if you've created an email template that you want to use over and over again, you can now save it. And when you create new emails, you get direct access to these saved email templates. And then you automatically create the email and take a copy of the content, and you'll get much faster emails based on this. It's very similar to the other feature I just showed you. Then out of the email marketing and into the file manager, a feature that has been requested for a long time. Now you can right click any folder in the files tree and you can click download, as you can see in this screen dump, and that will basically make Dynamicweb zip this folder and give you all the files in one download. And you can do it as high as you want in the file structure. Of course, there's a limitation to how much data you can get out of this. So don't try to download 10 gigs of images. It will probably not go well. In 9.5 or 9.4, we gave you the possibility of moving page-based items into out of the tree and into the content page pane, as you can see here, to support large list of items. For example, if you're using items for news and categories and stuff like that. This feature has been updated with new functions on the list of pages in the content page, so it's much easier and faster to work with, and moving and copying and so on multiple pages in one go. So just a small but important improvements to working with the content in the content tree. In forms for editors, there's a number of minor changes. This is a couple of examples of those. In the first screen dump, you can see there's a small envelope next to the email field, which indicates that this field is used for emails. Also, in the list of forms and in the list of fields, you can now see some of the properties that has been added on the field. So you get an easy overview of which forms is lacking, for example, the email field. You can also see if a form is collecting consents and respecting consents. So that is a number of user experience improvements that makes it easier to understand what happens. In the second screen dump, there's nothing much to see, but uploading files will now clean up some stuff and handle some security related issues related to file uploads. On a field, if you're looking at the third screen dump with the number 2 in it, you can see there's a new option, say hide field in receipt, meaning you can collect the data but don't show it in the receipt that is generated by Dynamicweb. And we've made some improvements to using user management along with forms. So you can now update email marketing permissions or add already logged in users that submits a form. You can add them to new groups and so on. So you can improve the collection of email marketing consents and stuff like that. If we're looking at the user management and the permission model, I'll first take a recap of some of the things that we introduced in 9.4. First of all, it's now possible using the control panel of user management to create specific user groups and roles and define which fields are part of this. So that means you can create a structure with accounts and users and logins and roles and put it into the user management tree structure. And part of this new feature was also a new way of managing permissions that we saw in 9.4, so making it much more granular what is possible permission-wise. So you can actually now lock down Dynamicweb extremely well and hard and give some very precise permissions on what to edit and what not to edit. And of course, using these new users and role types that are possible to create, it's also much easier to create a role-based permission setup. As you can see, I've made an example here. So I have all my users, but I also have different editing roles defined in the system, and I use those for setting permissions around the system. So we made some improvements, minor improvements in user experience related to this. The biggest new change, which is this one, much requested and a much easier way to set all the permissions in one go. So when you have defined a role or just have a regular group in the user management section, you can now edit that group and you can find the permission set, as you can see here. And you can set all the permissions in one go. So you can now see all the areas that we have in the area section in the administration. You can see a list of all the websites and all the e-commerce shops and areas that we have in there, and languages. So you can set up all the permissions by moving these buttons, and you can get a good overview of the collected permissions of a given user. And we have a question if we can set the user type on user creation. Yes, you can, because when you create a new user, Adrian, it will ask what user type you want to use. So like when you create a new page, it will also ask what kind of page or item type you want to use. The exact same thing would happen if you create from from the back end. And he asked, is it from the front end? And I don't know, Adrian. I think you can do that with a hidden field from the front end. Going to the e-commerce and taking a look at some of the new features in the e-commerce platform. This is a rather technical release on the e-commerce side that is the basis for some of the new features that you will be seeing in this and upcoming releases. So in the past couple of releases, we added something called e-commerce services. You saw the first version in 9.4. We had content services in 9.3. This new service-based e-commerce architecture will enables the possibility of curing data out of the product catalog in the first version, and that's things like product data and product fields and prices and related products and variants and all that kind of things using this new service-based API. This API is context aware, so it doesn't know anything about selected languages or countries or currencies, so you have to specify that when you're using this API. And the reason I'm telling all of this is that these new way of structuring our e-commerce API is being used for all the new features you are going to see in this release. First of all, you're going to see a new app or a new product catalog for e-commerce that you can add to a paragraph. That is using this new e-commerce services on top of the e-commerce view engine, which is curing all the data out of the product catalog. Also, Dynamicweb 9.5 introduces a web API for the product catalog, so you can query products and all the information related to that using a web API in JSON, for example. And also in PIM, we're introducing a new channel and feed system. I'm going to show you all of this in a minute. So you can export or expose data to services like Amazon or Price Runner or whatever external services that is needed. So that's the reason for doing all of this. And it will also give you a number of benefits on the existing solution. So, and the thing we are working towards is a headless e-commerce. And the first part of that is the headless product catalog, meaning that you can basically query anything out of the e-commerce product catalog using any of these services, and basically not have any view on top of that that's not HTML or anything. So you don't have to run it through the page view of Dynamicweb as you've been required to so far. So, and it gives a number of possibilities of separating some data and using the data that we author in PIM and in e-commerce and use it in other scenarios, in apps, on social media, in Amazon and stuff like that. And that's the reason why we have been doing all of this. This is the new web API that makes it possible to query product using this new view engine and the e-commerce services. And you have a number of built-in methods that you can call to get products of any. You just specify what product IDs or product numbers or whatever you want to get out of it, or you can get all products from a specific group, or you can query a specific products and you can get all the information related to a product. As you can see here, if you're technical, that we have something called field properties, which defines what kind of data you want to return. If you leave this blank, you will get all the data on a product, including all its variants and related products and stuff like that. You can explode or minimize the number of properties that are exposed through this web API using these features. So, and you can control page sizes. You can page through all the pages in the feed. And since this is based on the new e-commerce services structure, this is much faster than the implementation that we're doing on Rapido, for example, that is basically just using a number of templates to give us this data. So it's really fast and makes it much easier to do implementation that are Ajax based, which is how most modern e-commerce solutions are implemented these days. It's also now possible to expose, of course, all this data to external sources, and later on we're going to see how we do it in PIM. That makes it possible to change to whatever text-based format that is required. And we have a question with the new e-commerce services. Does that mean that it's now okay to add to cart through a web API? Well, now since this is a product catalog, if you saw the previous slide, so these headless things is only for the product catalog as of now. But of course, the plan is to also make your cart context independent in the same way. So it's possible to do all of these cart commands using a web API just like this one. So, but it's not there yet. You can still do it as you do it today. On top of this new view engine and the e-commerce service, we are also introducing a new product catalog app. And this is the one that you're looking at right now. So, and it has a number of differences compared to the old one. Of course, first of all, it's based on the new view engine, and therefore it cures the data out of the system in this new way. It's based entirely on the index as it is now, so you cannot use database related queries out of this. Then it's highly configurable, so you will define in this product catalog app what data to retrieve, and that makes basically the data collection or the data fetching out of the database much faster than the current product catalog. And then this is view model based, so you can only use view model based templates, and I'll just show you how that could look like this one. So you will get IntelliSense in Visual Studio when doing this, and you have a much better experience in terms of getting all the data, because a price is a price object and you get all the various elements of that. So it's much easier to code with, and it's also much faster than the existing template system. And also, since it's configurable what to return from this catalog app, it's a number of benefits out of this. And I should say it's not compatible with the old one, so you have to create a new template using the view model and add the new product catalog app to the page with your product catalog, and then you're off to go. The cart and add to cart and all of that works the same way as it always has been. Then there's a number of improvements to shipping and tax providers and the payment gateways. Lots of updates, security updates, and a couple of new providers on Vertex and something called PayFabric, which I don't think is totally done yet. So that was the e-commerce, and switching to the PIM, or product information management system. And there's a question more on the view model. If it's possible to inherit from that view model. I don't know if it is, Kevin. It might be possible to inherit it. On the PIM system, the biggest new feature is this new channels and feed concept, and that is also partially based on this new view engine and the e-commerce service that we introduced. So first of all, we have a channel concept, which is a new way of publishing data to channels that you want to expose data to, because usually you get data into a warehouse where you manage all the product data, and then you publish it to e-commerce, but you might also want to publish this data to other destinations, for example, an Amazon feed, because we're trading with Amazon, or to other partners that you want to expose all your data or part of your data to. So, and we call this concept channels, and they are effectively the same as a warehouse or an e-commerce shop, but they have a number of different ways of working, and also in the workflow. So when you're working with a product, when you're done with it, you can choose to publish your product data into these channels. And for example, if you're using an Amazon channel, you would have different campaigns inside there. And Amazon also requires specific structures where you publish your data to. So you would have Amazon specific product groups that you need to use when you're publishing to your Amazon channel. And on top of these channels, we can create feeds, and feeds are basically getting the data out of these channels or any other catalog in Dynamicweb and expose it to whatever partner that we have that is requiring a specific format. And on top of the feeds, which is basically a text-based format of the product data, you can also add a feed provider that will handle what to do with the data and how to deliver that data to the external provider. It might be something that needs to be sent using some protocol. It can also just be something that is exposed. So all of this is handled by the feeds functionality. A big request is how to work with images in PIM and in e-commerce. So with this new version of Dynamicweb, it's possible to create these image categories. So you can structure your image on a product depending on what they're being used for. So it can be you have some regular product images, you have some details on that product, or you can have some drawings on that product, and you can categorize that. That's one big change of this. It's also now possible to control inheritance across variants and languages much better than you could before. And it's also possible to inherit default product images across all of these things. So there's a new way of managing images with this release that gives a lot of new possibilities in terms of adding all these graphics to the system. The product editing has been giving a lot of new minor features, improving the editing experience. It's now possible to delocalize a field or just a language version of a product, so you can revert back to the default values from the master. And it's also you'll see a new improvement to the history and versioning system that makes it possible to revert back to previous versions and get data out and recreate previous product data on the system. And the multi-product update has been given some updates. So now you can, for example, as you can see on the left side here, you can much more granular handle the bulk edit in which variants and which languages you need to update specific fields to. It's also possible now to export a list of products to Excel instead of just one product with its variants. You can now take from the product list and get all the products out in one Excel sheet and import it back into Dynamicweb, making it much easier to do offline editing of the products. And you get all the right information in that Excel sheet. So it's not just a dumb sheet. It actually contains select boxes with available values and so on to make sure that the data is valid when it gets back in. On the product maintenance, there's also a number of new improvements. First of all, you can now define workflows. So you can specify using a workflow system what the state of a product is in, and you can use this information to query data in your system that is that has a specific workflow, and in that way you can ensure what will go on in terms of where the product data is it is in its life cycle. Looking at some of the GDPR compliance tools that has been added, some of these things has been released and other things are coming out in this release. So first of all, during this release cycle, we saw the new consent module that makes it possible to create consent activities and collect consents from different events in the system. So if people are signing up using a form or creating a user or checking out in the catalog, you can now make sure that you get a consent. And a consent is a specific registration that allows you to do certain activities specified in this consent. towards the user, like sending out email newsletters or whatever you need to do related to the user. And all of this, you have an administration for handling these activities and consents, and you have built-in features in the modules to collect it. Also, when you're using the email marketing tool, it's possible to choose what consent the user should have given before you send out this the email marketing things, whereas earlier we just needed an email address and the flag saying email allowed in the database. Now you can choose a specific consent that you want the user to have consented to before sending out this, making it easier to follow the GDPR rules. So the cookie manager has gotten a major overhaul in 9.5. It's now possible to create cookie categories like marketing preferences and user experience. And you can now organize all your cookies like this and put it into these categories. Like I have an example here with tracking cookies and marketing cookies and preference cookies, like save username and password. And all of this can be used to create cookie dialogue like these one you're starting to see, where the user can be more specific in terms of which cookies you want to set on the system. And of course, all of this is there to increase the GDPR compliance of your web pages. On the platform and integration, we have a question about custom cookies like Google ones. Yeah, you just add them to the cookie list. Let's go back. You can see add custom cookies to the list. You can see them in the back. But I think like Google Analytics, it will set cookies using a JavaScript. So you need to make an implementation that takes care of that for you, because these are what is handled server side, but you get all this information in the front end, so you are able to control it. Okay. Dynamicweb 9.5 introduces a new area in the left side of Dynamicweb called monitoring, and it contains basically a number of new features, where the most important one is a new event system. The idea of this new monitoring thing is to understand, how is my solution doing? Do we have anything that is not as it should be and something I should look into? So it will take a look at all the things that could go wrong in the solution and report it on this dashboard. And as you can see in this screen dump, it could be integrations. If they have any errors or experience anything they should not experience, you will see it in this dashboard. You can also get an overview of your scheduled tasks, and you can see if they're green or red, meaning did we have some kind of error? Did we have scheduled tasks that were supposed to run but did not run, and stuff like that? Then that will show up in this window. You also get some other information like do the SMTP and mail sending work as we expect, and you will get security information, how many IPs were rejected and IP bans were made, system memory, and all kind of information down here. You can also see when Dynamicweb started and when your license were upgraded and system version updates and all kinds of other information in this one. So basically, if you're looking at this screen and you see anything in red, you need to do something about it. So this is, of course, it's a tool for those running the application to monitoring all of that. Part of this, underneath it, is a new event system in Dynamicweb, which is residing next to the logging system, and it will monitor all kinds of events in the system, and that's basically what we're reporting on in the monitoring tool. So the dashboard can monitor any kinds of events. We've just set up the things that we find important, but you can, of course, trace anything you want yourself, or you can create new triggers or dashboard widgets that are looking at any event happening in the system. And all of this is, of course, to avoid downtime and be proactive in terms of finding errors and all of this. And up top, you can, of course, configure the dashboard exactly as you want. And these are some generic widgets that we're using on top of the scheduled task and event system that you can insert into this page. You can set up some event viewer notification. So if something happens on the system of a specific type or category, you can get an email out of the system. So if this specific schedule returns an error, you'll get an email instantly, so you don't have to find it out by someone cannot browse your website or data is missing or whatever you want to do. So next up is LS Integration, LS Retail, which is a point of sale system used by 4,000 customers around the world. In the past 6 months, we've been working with on an integration to this system to give a unified e-commerce experience, and that means that all the data that we have in the point of sale system, like product data and sales prices, are the same on the online as it is in the shop. But it's also ensuring that users that purchase stuff in the store, in the physical store, will receive the same loyalty points when they shop online, and what they earn online and in the shop is the same. They can use loyalty points both places. If they have a membership level that will give them special discounts, they can see those both online and in the store and so on. All these features that are the basis for running a unified commerce experience is part of this integration with LS Retail. We have an early release out now, and there will be a new release up in 4 weeks from now, adding more features into this. Yeah, this is now I talked ahead. You can see here buying for points, and that is basically integrated into the LS experience, so that you can use the points earned in a physical store in the online store. So, and just to one last couple of things, there's a number of small improvements to the NLB system. There's a number of security updates, especially related to access to the backends. You might see some errors when you're trying to log into the administration. That's basically just security updates. And of course, the underlying security and scanning of Dynamicweb frontend has also been updated quite a bit. And yeah, and the e-commerce services in version 2. Taking a quick look at the roadmap, we just had the release now, which is what I just showed you. In the next release cycle that is due in January after New Year's, you're gonna see a new content builder. That is a new way of working with content in a drag and drop manner, finally. And then we have something related to colors and presets. So you get a new color selector that will work based on specified brand colors. So instead of just selecting any color in the world, you will get a limited set of colors in all color selectors in the system. On the functionality side, we're working on a new statistics or analytics and insights module that will give you the missing statistics module back in Dynamicweb 9, but also with a lot of new information related to behavior on the website and actions to take to improve what happens on your website. So we want to give you insights into what works and what does not work, and give you some tools to fix those problems in an easy manner. Then we have a number of requests for forms for editors. So we're going to take a major overhaul on all the some of the feature requests that we have on the forum, especially on that. The e-commerce view engine you just saw with the channels and feeds and the API and the new product catalog app will of course get updates based on the feedback that we get on that. Getting access to search for editors in an easy way. So we'll create an easier to use user interface on top of the indexing, so you can configure it without being a Lucene expert. Also image focal points, so you can set a dot somewhere on an image, and that's where we're gonna cut the image around that focal point. Big wish. Improvements to cloud monitoring, integration, a new version to NAV, and updates to LS Retail and D365. On the PIM side, we'll see some history and auditing tools on top of the product editing experience. Something called dynamic product status and automatic structuring of data. So based on some of the properties on the products, it will be structured automatically, and it will also receive an update on the product status, making the workflows more seamless compared to now where they are handheld. So that's the plan for now. The release plan for the fall is, I can see this one is not updated. You'll get a Rapido 3.0 in just 4 weeks. And 2 days after that, you'll see LS Retail. And then we have updates to Rapido and a Dynamicweb 9.6 in January. And also just want to give you, make sure that you take a look at all the training and events that we have in our website. Sign up for all of these webinars or seminars that you can find in this event calendar. Make sure to keep an eye on that one. And of course, we have the Dynamicweb Summit in about 5 to 6 weeks, October 11 to 12. It's here in Aarhus, and it's 2 or 3 days. You can come on Wednesdays and participate in courses and training and some Rapido introduction and more technical stuff like getting source control, access to Dynamicweb source code. And then we have 2 days of conference with more than 30 tech and commercial sessions. This year there's like last year, a separation between the technical and commercial sessions, and we also have some more technical sessions that we did last year. And of course, we have award shows with Solution of the Year and MVPs and stuff like that. And you get the possibility of taking all the free certifications you need or want. So hurry up and join if you're not joining already. That's it for now. Now we have a number of questions. So I can see I have a number.